What up, guys? Yeah, we got another beer review coming at you. I'm trying to just pump these out while we still got beer available. And today we're doing Sam Adams New England IPA, hazy and juicy. I don't believe I've had the pleasure of having this. Normally when I see IPAs or whatever, if I feel like an IPA, I don't always gravitate toward Sam Adams. For me, Sam Adams it's kind of like the safe. You know, Sam Adams is like the floor. If Sam Adams is there, I know there's at least a decent option that I can go for. But I usually will try something else first before I go back. I do the fallback for Sam Adams. That's just for me. But I like knowing that it's there. Because when there's no Sam Adams, sometimes it's like, okay, there could be a big swing and a miss, and there's no safety net. Like, you could just... So anyways, it is 6.8% ABV and 35 IBUs, so it's not going to be super bittery, but let's crack this open. Pour this sucker. Don't think it'll... Okay, it does have a little blurb. I'll read it out while this kind of settles a little bit. This beer is born at our brewery in Boston. Unlike traditional IPAs, this beer is all fruit and no pine used. The special brewing process makes the beer hazy and exceptionally juicy. So, apparently no pine. So if you're not a fan of that pine sol kind of like gin, piney needle taste to it, maybe this is for you. But anyways, let's get into the review, get into the smell. Judging off of the aroma, there is definitely still pine. That would have been kind of the first aroma that I would have been like, there's pine in here. So we'll see about the taste, but there is definitely just that kind of basic pine citrus thing going on. You know, pine forest meets grapefruit meets. For some reason I was thinking like a dab of pineapple. Just a bit of that kind of tropical fruit element to it. It's not all grapefruit. The grapefruit isn't super overwhelming, but you still get kind of that basic, piney grapefruit citrus element to it. That's pretty much sums up the aroma. There's nothing like crazy going on. We'll see what the taste, but I'm calling horse shit so far on the no pine. That's still what I'm getting. But I'm going to recommend it on aroma. I was thinking about taking it down to a half just because the can said there's no pine and there's definitely some pine aroma to it. So I feel like that's... But I'm going to overlook that for now. I'm going to negate it in the taste if there's heavy pine in here, because you said right on the label, no pine. Anyways, give it a thumbs up on aroma. Let's get into the taste. Yeah, there's not much of that pine to it. I almost kind of feel like it needs it a little bit. It's gotten to the point we get so many IPAs, and so many of them are just kind of pushing that bitter aspect to it. And now you almost just mentally equate that pine to IPA. So now it's almost to the point where if you have something that doesn't have the IPA, it's almost like it's missing something. So that was the first impression I got. It's like, this is almost missing something. I'm just so accustomed to that heavier pine thing going on. So it'll take a second to adjust. I'm sure I'll be fine. Once you get halfway through it, you'll forget about it. But initially, yes, it's okay. Absolutely right. For the taste, not much pine in there. There's almost so you still get that kind of grapefruit base, and then there is more tropical. But I'm going to say more of like a papaya mango kind of thing, subtle in there. But instead, I was thinking like pineapple on the nose, but taste-wise, it's almost more of a mellow papaya mango. You know, sometimes you can get like the super sweet mangoes. I actually kind of like. I'm a big fan of like just like the frozen bags of pineapple of mango chunks. It's almost like sorbet when you let it, you know, unfreeze just a little bit. You know, especially when you're in quarantine and you don't want to gain 10,000 pounds of just, you know, binge eating pint after pint of ice cream. If I had a giant freezer, things would be problematic. But anyways, back to the taste. I feel like there's still almost like a sheath of pine essence on it. I feel like there is still a bit there. You probably can't completely cut that out because with the kind of hops you're using, it's always going to be present a little bit. So yeah, mostly, the more I'm getting into it, the more I'm kind of getting that I don't know, subtle. I'm still going to say there's some subtlety in the pine. The grapefruit isn't overwhelmingly grapefruit juicy. It's there. I mean, there's some grapefruit notes to it. There's a lot of stuff that's just kind of there, and nothing's necessarily taking charge. I feel like if you've watched my other reviews before, I will admit, I mean, I am upfront saying, like, IPA is not my favorite beer style. There's other beer styles I like better, but I like a good IPA. I feel like 35 IBU is too low. Like, I feel like part of the reason you're getting an IPA is because you want that bitterness to it. And for 35, I think is a bit too low. For me, like, 55, 60, that's kind of like the sweet spot. Anything over that, and it starts to get a little too heavy for me. 35, I could use it pumped up a little bit. Like this would be, I feel like this is a good beer to give somebody where they don't super like that heavy bitterness. Maybe they like elements of an IPA, but it's just too bitter and they can't really, you know, get their minds around it. I know when IPAs first started coming out, and you start getting stuff that high, it was like, this is way too bitter. And now we're just so accustomed to it. But I think this is a good one to enter, like, if you just don't like that much bitter at all. I think this is good for some people. I think taste is fine. Again, Sam Adams, it's kind of like the safe beer to go with. I don't mind it. I could definitely get a 6-pack and drink it and, you know, kind of enjoy it. I feel like, again, safe beer. I wish, you go someplace else to try to push the envelope a little bit. But taste-wise, I'm gonna give it a half. I wish, for me personally, it was a little more bitter, and I wish something in the taste would kind of take charge. It's kind of like a bunch of followers. There's no leader taste to it. They're all just kind of like bumping around, and no one's really. What are we supposed to do here? We don't have the pine. There's no leader here. You know, Colonel Pine went missing. Oh, Colonel Clink. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a half. It tastes fine. So I mean, if you find it, absolutely get it. Especially if that's the only beer that's available at this time. You know, as you look out the window, knowing you can't really go outside. Well, thankfully, we can still kind of go outside. We just have to keep our distance. But I'm gonna give it a half. Next category is value for price. I mean, it's Sam Adams. You know what a Sam Adams is going to cost. It's technically a craft beer, but I mean, not technically. It is a craft beer, but it's going to be cheaper than most other craft beers. I mean, you know, again, it's safe. It's a little cheaper than your regular craft beer. I'll recommend it for value for price. I think again, most Sam Adams is fair for what you're paying. Next category is distinction. How distinct is it? And I mean, it's so hard to differentiate some of these IPAs at this point because there's so many of them. This one, thankfully, is fairly well done. So some of them are just kind of like they hide behind the bitterness. They kind of hide just how suck-ass they are by overdoing it with the bitterness. You know, it's kind of like when you burn something, you just start throwing. No one's gonna know if I just put all these like pepper and salt and garlic, lots of garlic in it. But this it's well done. It's not bad. Like, there's a reason that it was put out. It's definitely put out for people that like it a little less than the bitterness. So I guess in that way, it is kind of unique. 35 IBU for an IPA is, you're not going to see a lot of that. 35, I mean, you can barely, it's barely an IPA at that point. So at first I was leaning no, but I'm kind of talking myself into yes, recommending it for distinction. Just it's a good beer for when you don't want the heavy bitterness and when you just don't want that crazy pine taste. So yeah, I recommend that. Next category is drinkability, and it is a very easy beer to drink. I mean, this is 6.8% ABV. It is dangerously easy to drink because of the lack of extreme bitterness and lack of extreme pine taste. You could just murder these. You just destroy this pack of Sam Adams. I mean, not even batting an eye. And so this is an extremely drinkable IPA. If I was listing my most drinkable IPAs that you just down without even thinking, this is probably towards the top. So I'm going to recommend it on drinkability. It absolutely is a very easy drinking beer, just in general. And when you combine it with the alcohol content, I think that's, next out of the park. Last category is would I buy it again? And you know what? I think I would, even though I kind of knocked it a little bit on wanting it to be a little higher in the IBUs. I would, I think if it was more in like 45 range, I think that'd be a real sweet spot. But the low IBU, the low bitterness, helps it up the drink for me. The easiness of drinkability, and sometimes you just don't want that heavy bitterness taste. Sometimes you just want something that's easier to drink. The weather's getting warm out. You want to be able to just kick back, crack open a few beers. Of course, this one you're going to drink faster because of the low, at least for me. Ooh, salt, burp. You're going to be able to drink it faster because of the low IBUs for me, and that could lead to some trouble later. But, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to recommend it on, I would buy it again. So, yeah, this beer does very well. I don't know what else to say about it. You guys let me know. What do you think? Have you had this before? What do you think of Sam Adams New England IPA, hazy and juicy? Do you think that lower bitterness, do you think that's... Are you a fan of that? Or would you rather it just be like, out of, extreme, like at least double or even triple the bitterness? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I'm going to try to keep, do as many of these as I can. Keep on getting emails about local stores. I think they're just kind of shutting down types of businesses in waves. I think they're giving people enough time to try to stock up on alcohol. You can't close down the booze shops first. There's pandemonium everywhere if that happens. So I think they're kind of, I wouldn't be surprised within the next week, just like, okay, all liquor stores, everything is shut down except your essential, like drugstores and certain grocery stores. Because I've gotten emails that says a lot of the mailing places are stopping with that too. So I'll do this as long as I can. So hopefully this won't last for very much longer. But anyways, so for myself and for Sam Adams New England IPA, hazy and juicy, take it easy.